But then it's like when she actually got into the zoo, it turns out it's like a union. So like basically she started off at the gift shop, but she couldn't like climb up to the part where she's an actual zookeeper.
Dicks out
And
for
her
rip.
yeah, she couldn't do that either. And it's just like she's like, okay, my degree went to waste. I'm just gonna work at a gift shop.
That's so depressing.
I know.
Slightly depressing.
No, but she's good now. She works at a dog shelter.
Okay.
Yeah, with
That'd be
a lot
so
of
hard
dogs.
though. I feel like you'd want to like take all the animals home.
Oh
Yeah?
yeah.
Oh no, she feeds them. She trains them. She tells me how to like tame a dog.
Tame a dog.
Yeah. So let's say like a
Better
dog's like
dog.
really aggressive and stuff. You put it on a treadmill so it can run out into like aggression.
Tread.
No, it's true. It's true. Like it's it's an actual thing.
No, I
Your
know.
dog-
Be the alpha. Be the alpha.
Mm.
Because I know how to train dogs. It's just like imagining a dog on a treadmill is so retarded. Like,
No, it's nice because like what if they get like really buff, you know?
Really buff.
No.
That'd be
I
scary.
met a
Dog
dog at
body.
this festival that was the world that would it was the UK's strongest dog, and it was fucking ripped. Like this dog was the most stacked dog you'll ever
yeah,
see.
there's some dogs that are just bred to be freaking killers. Like
I get
pitbull.
scared of kangaroos, hey. Because their anatomy, it's like looking at looking at like an ape or something. Like their anatomy is too close to us, so you can see exactly how tank they are, and you're like,
They're
oh
so
no.
tough. They are
You know what I
so
love watching though? These drunk Australians fight kangaroos.
Is that a thing?
That's amazing. Yeah, I've never seen that.
Dude, I would never take on a kangaroo, or it would beat the shit out of me. God damn. It's dangerous.
You guys ready?
Oh, this is gorgeous. No!
Alright.
That was gorgeous.
I do a demo.
Duck.
Alright, so here you go. So I was talking about earlier about like timing yourself and knowing how long it takes you to do stuff, right? So I'm gonna time myself right now. I'm gonna do 12 seconds. And I'm gonna try to draw robotic helmets. I do a lot of. We'll see what's up. Ready? Go.
So you're saying this will be no problem for you?
We'll see what's up. All right, time's up. Let's do another 12 seconds.
Oh, 12 seconds.
12 second Jesus. You heard it here first, guys. You'll
That
get
can be a dog.
Jesus- You'll get Jesus in your life in 12 seconds.
Your third eye will be open in 12 seconds.
It's crazy.
Third eye, huh?
It's all meta.
Yeah, I realized that I'm a vegan and that whole...
Ooh.
What? That's not what you do when you hear someone's a vegan. Your perception is skewed. But I understand...
No, because I'm from a family of hunters, so I just have a natural thing against vegans. I don't know.
People that have
What?
Your
compassion.
way of life is being
People
threatened.
that have compassion of their animals.
That's fair.
About survival.
Oh, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. I'll destroy you, and then you're not gonna be able to go back to your family of hunters. You're gonna be like, I've seen the light, family. All your family.
I've been enlightened.
Ends here today with me. Anyway,
I have a
one more.
friend, Corey, friggin' turns vegan one day and lectures me for 2 hours about like doing good ethics. Like I
So that's
get
the
it.
number one problem that I see with veganism is that there's a cult-like aspect of it. I understand why.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand.
I don't feel like you're the preachy kind of vegan, but it's just the ones that are just real preachy and just get on their high horses.
Sure.
Those are the ones.
Yeah, it's we call those. There's another word for those types of people. It's called douchebags. Vegan doesn't make you all of a sudden a better person. I used to
And like,
eat lots and lots of meat, and it's not like I was like this person all the time. It's like nothing's changed other than my perspective and what I eat. Really, that's it. But I'm pretty.
Fun fact: the only life form on Earth that can survive without consuming other life forms is plants. And
Yeah,
Oh,
there we go.
snaps.
Science.
Not all of them, though. Not all of them.
bacteria and shit.
Not all of them. Some plants are carnivores. Anyway,
Oh yeah, like the Venus flytrap.
yeah.
Ooh, have you seen that
There's
one?
a few actually. They're like really distributing. Like some
Yeah,
the fungi, for instance, is like real ruthless. There's some fungi that like zombify ants and then make those
What?
ants they turn them into basically like drones, and those ants will walk back to the colony. But the military ants are like, oh snaps, we gotta quarantine, because if they don't quarantine it, the ant will die in the colony, and then will spread the spores, and then all the other ants will get infected. It's like for real, like zombie like infection. Crazy.
Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen the carnivorous caterpillars? Those things are fucking gnarly.
Yeah, there's alternatives in both worlds of life. Plants that eat other animals, or plants that eat animals, and animals that eat plants. Obviously, that's the most obvious one that we see.
They're the
Yeah,
worst
just
ones.
because you can't hear them screaming doesn't mean they can't feel pain.
Oh boy,
Damn.
we'll get into this.
Oh god.
we'll get into this. I had actually an argument with my son yesterday about that, because he saw we were watching the show. He watches all these cooking shows, and he saw these crabs getting thrown into like this thing, and I was like, oh man, that's terrible, right? And
So delicious.
he was just like, well, plants feel pain too. And I'm like, I looked at him, and I pulled out a banana, and I was like, look at me. You're telling me that this banana and that
Just
crab
because
are the
you can't hear
same?
them screaming on the outside doesn't mean they're not screaming.
You can't hear crabs
I
scream.
mean, like,
Crabs don't scream either, dude. It's not the point. It's not a matter of screaming. It's a matter of a nervous system. You're living in a mythical world.
True.
like fish don't really feel pain. They don't feel pain.
Oh yes.
You take them in the water, they don't know they're dead.
Oh, they do.
Maybe they have their own
Yeah.
thing
They
that's
do.
worse than pain.
We'll get into this after this demo. So I did these in 12 seconds, right?
Okay.
And the whole idea of this is that 12 seconds felt like, man, I didn't have time to do anything, right? Now I'm going to give myself 1 minute and 12 seconds. Let's do that. All right? And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw a robot head. And you're going to notice that I have all the time in the world. Right? It's going to feel so much longer. And that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to talk about, like when we were talking about timing yourself and gauging, like when Remy was saying, like, he didn't even have a good gauge of how long it actually took him to do stuff before, right? But that was very helpful. And the more you start to time yourself, and the more you start to quantify your day and the stuff you do in your day, the more you can start to accomplish with that time, you know? Because right now I'm only still at like 30 seconds, so I still have 30 seconds to go, you know? And I got a lot more done, and it feels like I have a lot of time. So equate this to something like, spending an hour doing hour-long sketches. Yeah, they're gonna feel really hard, you know, when you first start doing them. But the more you do them, the more when you spend like 3 hours on it, it's gonna feel like a lot of time. You understand? But if you're always doing like 7-hour paintings, and 7 hours is your clutch time, right? But if you start to reduce that and do like quicker 30-minute, 1-hour paintings or what have you, right? You're when you have an hour or two, it's going to be much more valuable to you all of a sudden. Does that make sense? And so that's why I always encourage people using a timer, whether it's just monitoring how much time they're actually spending on a painting, right? Versus, or just also gauging how long they take to do a painting, or also like how long it takes them to do studies or how long it does this or that, you start gauging like, okay, now I know that I need like at least an hour to really get something going, you know. So maybe I need to work on that. For me, I realized that in the first 10, maybe first 15 minutes at the most, I can decide whether the painting or drawing is worth keeping or not. Okay? And that's because I've learned that anything beyond that is really a waste of my time. I'm just correcting a really bad drawing. It's better to stop at that 10 minutes and start a new drawing, right? And start fresh and better than to spend, and I think I remember Lindsay had this problem, right? Than to spend like, hours on it just to try to fix a problem, right?
Mhm.
It's very similar to like trying to fix a faucet that is continuously leaking with paper towels versus fixing the faucet, right? Like, cleaning the mess up with just like paper towels versus just stopping the leaking in the first place. So I always encourage people to time themselves. So I'm going to do a painting and then I'm going to color it from black and white so you guys can see me do it again live to help you guys out. Some of you that are more in the final stages of your paintings. But anyway, yeah, for anyone who's curious to the whole vegan argument, I'll be more than happy to break it down for you guys. Why you guys should
Okay,
reconsider.
how do you call a population of animals that breed and that destroy the ecosystem of certain types or like certain ecosystems?
Mhm.
How do you huh?
I'm just saying, I'm just listening to you.
Because in terms of the populations of deer and stuff, which my family usually hunts, like elk, deer,
Sure.
if hunters didn't hunt them, they have no natural predators really. And so what would happen is if they weren't hunted on a certain level, I mean there's a reason we have licenses to hunt, and there's only a certain amount that are given out because we would destroy the population of like
Sure.
certain types of deers if we over hunted them. But at the same time, if we didn't
Hold
hunt
on
them
just a
at
second.
all,
All right. Oh my gosh. Hold on.
that's all right. If we didn't hunt them at all, their population would run wild and they would destroy an ecosystem that they have real no natural predators, which is
Sure.
usually
Yeah,
the
it's the wolf and rabbit argument, which is not a bad argument to why hunting should exist specifically, right? Like because there's the population of wolves that were ravaging, like it was a problem because wolves were killing people, right? And they're like, oh, dude,
because
we got to stop
because if
these
you're
wolves.
talking about, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if you're talking about just mass production of meat in terms of like how we treat like cows and
Mhm.
like cattle and pigs and chickens, yeah, I completely agree with you. It's
Yeah, I don't think
disgusting.
that. So that I don't think there's an argument here. I don't disagree with you, what you just said. Like
Yeah.
there is this abundance of an animal that lives in an environment that's not supposed to live in based off of, like for instance, the feral cat is a good example of this. Stray
Hmm.
cats. The domestication of cats has like destroyed certain populations of birds
Yeah.
and killed like extinct, like made birds go extinct because of the
Yeah.
domestication. Because some people throw away their cats or the cats get away or whatever, and then they're like
Hmm.
running around feral and like freaking mass producing at like an exponential rate. It's a problem, man.
Hmm.
It's becoming a problem. Yeah, I mean, like that kind of stuff makes sense. Like I understand. I'm not actually opposed to the idea of like, you know,
Culling
yeah,
the pop.
like there's a trophy hunting in Africa. I saw a video recently about how that's actually helpful to the extinction of these animals because what they do is they make these licenses like hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars,
Hmm.
to get to hunt these like exotic animals. But those people use
Hmm.
that same money to save those animals. So it's kind of weird,
Yeah.
kind of like hypocrite or hypocritical like way of approaching it. But it makes absolutely sense um, because then it's like there's other reasons to keep these animals prized and alive, even though
Yeah.
it's kind of
Just to kill
despicable.
them.
Hmm.
But it's like
So
that.
guys,
That's nothing.
I'm gonna have to head off. Sorry,
All
just
right, man.
before. Cheers for that,
That
and
Yeah,
I'll catch you
absolutely.
all next week.
Yeah, absolutely. You can
Yeah,
check the
no,
recording later for the color demo.
Yeah, I will do. Sorry, like just the time here makes me go. "Oh, I need
I
to go
get
to
you.
bed."
No, that's why this is recorded, so you people need to pass out. They can pass out and watch it later when they're not.
Cool.
Like,
What do you
Catch
mean?
you around,
You
guys. Always good to hang with you. See you next week.
all right, see ya. So, so I don't disagree with you. I don't really. That's not why I'm not a vegan. That's like what hunting? All animal
yeah.
cruelty should be
Yeah,
abolished.
that's what I said to start out with. Like, you don't seem like the type of vegan that's like the preachy, like,
Yeah, here,
oh, I'm superior to you
sure.
because I
That's just
don't.
stupid. That's just stupid mentality, and overall, like I don't think no matter what you're eating doesn't make you
Yeah.
better than anybody else. So so the so for me, I'm a logical thinker. I think of things logically, like what makes sense to me, right? And so what you just said, it makes sense to me. I'm not really arguing that because there were instances like the wolf rabbit one that I was about to talk about, where wolves are killing people, murdering small animals, and they're like, all right, we're gonna go on a wolf killing spree, and they did, and they're like, tight, got those damn wolves, revenge. And then all of a sudden, the rabbit population was not now free to roam, and they like
Yeah.
destroyed crops. They actually caused more damage because they started destroying agriculture, and they're like, oh snaps. So then they had to breed wolves again, and this is like a lot of the reasons why we even domesticated dogs, like wolves
Yep.
in the first place, and why we even have dogs, right? It's to kind of help with this freaking abundancy of other predators versus the overpopulation of the non-predators, like the prey animals that eat all the things that we actually do want to eat too. And so yeah, it's just yeah, I don't, I don't think there's a problem there. So back to what you're saying, you agree with the whole mass production of animals and the destruction of
Yeah, I think it's
freaking
disgusting. I think
yeah.
it's
That's kind of where I'm at, right? Like
but
ethically, I
not
agree with
not even
this.
on like not even like on a moral grounds, but just on a sanitary grounds alone is just it's not safe. The kind of chemicals we're pumping into these animals to
Sure,
kill bacteria that would never exist in the first place if it wasn't the
yeah,
conditions we had them in, you
sure.
know?
Yeah, think about like this. This is pretty mind blowing. The amount of animals that are murdered for our pleasure. Because you mentioned survival. It's not survival. The mass production of murdering 56 billion animals a year. That's not survival. Because only a small percentage of people are enjoying that casualty of war, right? And these animals are clearly sentient and clearly have emotions. And for instance, the pig is smarter than a dog, right? And once you put that into context, you realize, would you eat your dog? And some people would be like, oh yeah, I would. It's all good.
That's where I may disagree with you on that because
I'd eat my neighbor's dog.
Yeah, there are some dogs that I agree that people would want to eat. Yeah,
necessarily be
I mean,
against
like in
eating
some
dogs.
countries, like they
There are
eat
countries
certain types of
that eat
animals.
dogs.
oh yeah,
I
and
know
and
Germany eats like horses.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
where do we choose what animals are cool and what animals aren't? And that's the problem. It's
Which
like
ones have eyebrows?
yeah, because like some
They have
countries
eyebrows.
love they have eyebrows.
Brass.
Some countries love like one animal over another, right? Like for instance, in
Yeah.
India, like cows are worshipped and beloved,
Yeah.
right? So
I
they
mean,
look
like,
at us
isn't it?
Americans and like, what in the world? Like it's just like we would look at like places in certain places in Asia that like hunt and kill domesticated dogs and cats and
Yeah.
feed it to the
Whaling.
I think in terms of the argument with like, oh, India they worship the cow and whatnot. It's because like it's in their religion.
yeah
Yeah,
but that's my
The
point.
cow is a god.
And
And
ours
then
is in
versus like the states where it's just like
it's in our
after the pillaging of like Native Americans is just like it's all Christianity and from what Christianity teaches from
sure.
what I've heard.
So check it out. So that's
They don't really tell its followers to like praise a cow as a god or see it as a god. They see it as like see the cow as a blessing from God, so he can provide you with food.
nah.
but it's not
That,
a
corn,
rational belief.
corn was the thing, man.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So check it out. I didn't change for ethical reasons. I just now see the ethical reasons easier because I'm not biased.
You changed for health reasons or something.
Yeah. Because
And I can totally see that.
I started looking at the facts. The number one thing that you need to understand is that we are pretty much makeshift omnivores, straight up herbivores.
I don't believe that at all.
Well,
Just
it
how
doesn't
we
matter
evolved.
what you believe. That's the funny thing about
No.
facts.
Just
It
from
doesn't matter what you believe.
Facts show that we are
Okay.
omnivores, and
Now check it out.
I can.
Oh, God.
I'm gonna show you with a very simple example.
But from different timelines, we didn't just become omnivores. It was completely to our adaptation. What was in our environment that we adapted to. That's why we have the ability to think critically that other apes don't. And there are apes that are omnivores, or there are apes that are completely herbivores, which is usually like silverback gorillas and stuff. And then there are apes that are carnivores that are like chimpanzees.
What chimpanzees
But
are carnivores?
I mean,
What?
like running on Ray's example, like pandas are vegetarians. There's black bears that eat fish, any kind of meat they can get their hands on, and like literally it's just like what's in the area at the time.
So check it out.
But
Check it out. So what you're saying is that there was a time where we adapted to eating meat, right? And that's why we eat meat today because we're omnivores, right? But if you look at every nation, every country, in every part of the world, we have a staple food that has nothing to do with the meat, has everything to do with plants, starches. Like rice is Asia, right? Corn was here in North America, right? In fact, what really made our brains grow had nothing to do with eating meat, had everything to do with cooking. The fact that we can cook like heavily hard to digest foods like potatoes. Potatoes were full of carbohydrates and full of nutrients, and we absorb it like literally like 50 times more once it's cooked or boiled, right? And so once we invented like fire and tools and stuff like that, we were able to eat like we were to do modern agriculture and cook corn, for instance, soups and stuff like that, right? This is like staple of almost every culture has their staple starch, right? And what also it allowed us to do was to cook and eat meat because we can't eat meat. We can't just go up to a bison, bite their neck and be cool for like a while. Like our life expectancy would be less than it is today, right? Because of that.
well, that's what I mean about
We used to. Then when we discovered fire, we started cooking to get more nutrients.
We never did. We all like the paleo diet is a lie too because it's all the paleo. Like if you were to say that we ate an abundance of animals and other animals, like then we would have next to our burial, like all the bones that we're finding of like old paleo versions of us, we would also find tons of animal bones lying around. It's not true.
A lot of these
It's not true. And
that
so
comes from eating raw meat has to do with the way, not only the way we evolved, but just overpopulation.
So check it out. You guys need to just listen to what I'm telling you, because I understand what you're saying. You're saying stuff that like you want to believe to be true, and this is where I was sitting in for the same reason.
Well, I don't necessarily. I'm like you. I prefer the science over.
Yeah, and you don't have to take my word for it. You could just look at all the evidence. So here's another really big piece of evidence is that our greatest diseases like diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart attacks, especially heart attacks, cardiovascular diseases, are caused by an overabundance of cholesterol and saturated fats. And guess what has that the most? Guess what food has it? Guess what country?
That's in terms of that's in terms of like overeating though, because
No, it's as simple as this. Whenever meat is introduced to a culture, those diseases start to surface. You don't have to listen to me. Just look at the statistics.
Well, it's also like
Korea,
in Japan.
oh yeah,
They don't because they don't eat red meat. They tend to have like more problems that are prone to fish because they eat a lot of fish.
Exactly, and so
but you don't
check it out.
the same issues that are in Americans.
Check it out.
Americans
They're having more strokes and they're dying from more cardiovascular diseases for one reason alone.
Well,
That's what it is.
in America.
No,
There's so many arguments you
Japan
can
used
go
to be the most
Japan
healthy.
has the longest like
Not
life expectancy in
anymore.
the world.
Used to. Not anymore. And look what happened. Look what changed.
But what
I
also, what
promise
also,
you. Just look into it. Like, you don't have to take my word for it.
what I'm saying
Look
is,
into it, and you
What
guys will be shocked.
what exactly are your sources though?
environment
We,
during that small time period. We had nuclear warfare with Japan within the last 100 years.
so this is a
you're
scientifically,
trying,
this is not Huffington Post. This is a scientifically run
but
website. It's called
but
pub.med.
Before we go on, can I say a thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one quick thing.
I'm going to put it in the Skype for
One
you
of the
guys.
biggest regrets of my life is I went to Japan and I was with my friend and we were at the dome and we were just photobombing people. And then my friend said we were photo A-bombing people. And then I laughed my
that's
ass
not-
off, but I felt really,
God damn.
it was probably the worst thing I've ever done in my life. And
Okay,
another
so-
thing happened.
It's pretty
That's
terrible.
fucking funny.
Another thing happened in Hiroshima. I really wanted to. I had one day left, and I really wanted to see the museum. Like it's in the beach area now, like the museum to where the bomb went off. And I was running to get there within like the last 10 minutes. I finally got there because I didn't think I was gonna make it, and I was like, "Oh, did I make it?" And then the chick's like, "Yeah, you made it," and I was like, "Yes!" And I screamed out "yes" really loud, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
But do you know why
Anyway,
I
back to
think a
vegans.
lot of these,
Yeah, I'm still in
these
class.
studies are bullshit? Or not necessarily bullshit. They don't cover the whole expansive like intricacies of what happened between different time periods. Between the 1500s and now, we didn't have sodium, we didn't have all these different kind of like chemicals in our systems that we do now. Like just in a regular burger, it has so much sodium, and you're putting people who eat unhealthy meat and healthy meat, and you're jumbling them into one
No,
generalization.
no,
Which
not at all, actually.
no.
Right, I'm
That's
trying
what
to
the
tell you.
studies are doing.
No, the studies aren't doing that either. The China study specifically looked at like over a population of thousands
Yeah,
and thousands of
but
people.
look at the health of the Chinese, just the atmosphere alone of China. Like you're gonna say
Right,
that
so-
it has only to do with the food?
No,
That's what I mean.
that's what
Like-
they started thinking. What's wrong with why are these people dying from these different diseases based off of their regions? And they,
Just look at the air, Jesus.
that's anecdotal. Like you're just saying like just because there's bad
Air,
air.
bro.
You're saying that they have bad air, they have bad diseases when they actually are the healthiest. They're healthier than us, and we don't have that air. So bam, that's proven wrong. So like,
I mean, like,
what's your point? Like you're saying just because we have bad air.
You're saying
It's,
China,
uh,
for
a rebuttal.
example, has better health than Americans? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they have a longer life expectancy than us Americans. That's like just we are one of the unhealthiest people
because we
of the world.
overconsume. We're given so much and we're not
And what do
told
we eat
control.
the most of? What do we eat the most of?
Anything that's
We-
cheap.
Do
And
you think
what's
we eat
cheap
a
at the
lot?
moment is
We eat
processed
too
meat.
much. We eat too much. We eat too much broccoli. That must be it.
Wait,
We
no,
eat too
no,
much
but okay.
fruits and vegetables. That must be
But
it.
do you
It,
see
can't,
difference
it
between?
has nothing to do with
Mm.
burgers or
But
the barbecues or the
but
steaks.
no,
or the
no,
American.
no. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Is that we
Well,
eat too
We're
much
learning
meat?
so much about
Well,
art
there you
right now.
go. Okay.
But Anthony, do you see a difference between processed meat and someone hunting for their own meat and killing an animal and consuming it? Do you see a difference at all
There's an
between
absolute
that?
there's an absolute difference because one is that you only eat it in moderation. The other one is you don't. And then processed meat is processed meat, just like you can have processed foods in general that have no meat in it. They're just as bad, right? That's not the argument. I'm saying that overall, like it is just not in our physiology to be having that. And let me explain to you why. It's because if you look at like something like if you look at like a lion or a tiger, I had a friend who's like, well, like look at lions and tigers, man. Like you don't want to be like them. And I was like, well, I don't understand what you're trying to say. He's like, well, look, like they hunt and stuff is for survival. And I'm like, okay, what's your point? He's like, well, like that's what we're doing. And I was like, what the? No, not at all. Because there was a time where, you know, hunting for like a wild beast or boar was a big deal. That was like if you did, that was like for your whole tribe or even your family for a week or so. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, you know, we're eating like I'm gonna kill this. You don't see a lion say I'm gonna kill this giraffe, right? And I'm gonna put him in the refrigerator and eat him for next week, you know, in the microwave. It's our technology that's evolved faster than our physiology. Yeah, we had an opportunity to really truly become omnivores, but that opportunity has been squashed because of our advances of technology. One was cooking. Two was modern tools, right, to be able to even hunt these animals. Because nothing in our physiology has anything that we can do to really murder another animal.
No, yes, no, it has exactly everything. The
Wait,
endurance.
let me finish
No, no,
talking, brother. Let me finish talking. Okay, I appreciate your passion,
Oh, no.
but you're saying that you can claw someone to death with your little fingernails, and you're saying that you can sear
no,
an animal with your freaking baby cow teeth?
no,
Are you kidding me?
no.
Bro, I could take an animal.
Yeah,
Easy.
smaller animals, maybe like a cat or a dog, but that's not enough nutrients,
I don't
right?
know about a dog. Dog could probably rip me off. Maybe a cat.
Right. So the ability to create tools like a spear or an arrow was a pretty big deal, right? And so we obviously could not evolve our brains to be large enough to understand to wield these tools because our other primate cousins didn't. So what did we have to eat? What made our brains bigger? It was the ability to cook starches, stuff that didn't run away, stuff that we could put in the ground, stuff that we can wait a season and keep it overnight. You know what I mean? That's what allowed us to
But it
eventually
was
started
like,
to hunt animals and say, hey, you know, this is an extra source of energy, you know, but it's not our primary source. In fact, our brain runs off of glucose, right, which is sugar, which is basically starches, you know what I mean? Carbohydrates. Our physiology is like our teeth are built to chew and grind
and
food,
like
not to tear and
B12
steal.
and other vitamins that you
No,
need to get from
B12's not in
animals.
animals, brother or sister.
I
B12
know.
is injected into the animals. Like we don't get B12 from animals.
It's from a bacteria which is found on animals, which
There
is
No,
are
injected into the
no.
animals.
We have to
Yeah.
literally supplement cows with B12, like literally. And we still, this is not a vegan problem. This
no.
is a this is
That's
a
the thing
human
with
problem.
the
People still
that's the
get
thing with
50%.
agriculture.
People, yeah, people, everybody, whether you eat meat, like even you guys, I would say look into your B12 because you might be deficient because it's a
I was.
human problem. Yeah. So you're so I don't know what you're saying. You're getting
No,
into
no,
your
but
animals.
I was
Or are
like
you supplementing?
this was from like trying to like be vegan for like a week,
What? And
and I did it
you
wrong.
got deficient in a week? That's not how it works. It's not that you're more deficient
No, no, no,
before you
that
do
was the
like
second time.
I promise you.
No,
I
the first
promise you.
time it was a month. It was a month.
Oh my gosh. I've been
Okay,
vegan
you're
for years and I am not B12 deficient. Right? I have been
yeah.
almost a vegan for like a year and I have not been deficient in B12 at all. In
Okay.
It's
fact,
B12, by the way.
my blood
I'm
tests
just
are
throwing like
freaking
bombs.
amazing. My kids, we took my kids off of
Uh,
milk and dairy and meat. My daughter had eczema. That eczema went away, like literally. Even our pediatrician's like, "What are you guys doing? Like, what medication is she on?" And we're like, plants and vegetables, like
well,
vegetables
you're
and
not.
fruits, homie." And they're like, "Whoa, really?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I realized the doctors don't even know what the hell's going on with the health
Of
realm,
course, the
right?
Mm,
doctors, they're not scientists, they're
They're not
doctors.
what?
nutritionists, right?
They're not, I mean,
And so check it out.
nutritionists aren't
So check it
scientists
out. So
either.
getting back to the physiology thing, like listen, like doesn't it make sense that our technology is really what advanced us, right? Because if we had the ability to cook and eventually store meat, because we weren't even able to do that, right? Remember that was a problem. Like people were dying from severe diseases because of the mishandling of containment of meat, right?
But why, no, I'm saying, why was that? It was because
Because
of
we didn't have
overpopulation.
no.
It had,
We don't have an population
yes,
problem in terms of food. We don't.
today,
We
no,
don't.
we have an overpopulation of humans and diseases spread among humans, not necessarily with animals.
Oh my
But
gosh,
I'm
are you kidding me?
saying,
Are you like serious? Are you being serious right now?
yes,
Let's
You're saying,
yeah.
let's not forget about salmonella
yeah,
from tomatoes.
you're
What
saying
do you have to
you're
say
saying
about
to me, you're saying to me that there was a time where meat was not the problem, that we were able to just eat it like no problem. You know, we were talking about religion
No,
earlier, right?
no,
We were talking about
I'm not
religion
saying that.
earlier, right? Like, you know,
Mhm.
and even in the
I'm
Bible, it
saying,
said that
no, no,
pork
no, no,
was a
I'm saying,
problem because, and you would go to hell if you ate it, right?
yeah, but
Because
that
people
was
were just dying from a
because,
piece of bacon, man. They were
yeah,
dying.
yeah, that was because there was a real problem. But
Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily the bacon. It was because of the population of the humans
No,
that,
what
no,
if?
dude. It's from the bacon.
Yeah, it's from the
Let's
bacon.
be real.
Having more
Yo,
people
like
doesn't make
personally,
bacon safer, or less people make bacon
mm,
safer. That's a weird argument that you're trying to shoot.
mm.
You're saying that if we had less people, that bacon would have been all right. Like that doesn't make any sense, dude.
no, 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 no. I'm saying the diseases that have evolved over time as the human population increased became more severe than they used to be. I mean, we had the Black Plague and everything, and that was and why did we have the Black Plague? Was it because what we're eating? No, it was because the populations were concentrated.
Oh,
You're
it's because
you're
like they couldn't clean themselves.
you're
Concentrated in
focusing on a
small
different
areas.
argument.
They couldn't clean
Yeah, you're
themselves.
focusing on a
But
different argument because
I
people.
see where he's coming from though. Like even with like
They were
potatoes and
concentrated in
like
small
vegetables and
areas
whatnot,
and
there's still
the
like some
diseases
bacteria you
spread.
can
It was
literally ingest
Yeah,
with like cooking. With cooking and like
yeah, thinking of.
especially with cooking and like
Okay, so
cooking meat,
yeah,
you
absolutely. We can do that, right? Like that's the thing that we can do now. And it's you guys aren't wrong about the overeating part, but that's the point I'm trying to get to. Let me get to that, right? Like so let's
mm,
get into this. Like so then the next thing is that we were able to cook and sanitize our food. All right?
mhm.
Because it was a problem, not because it was overpopulated. Overpopulation or having a lot of people around just made more people got sick and more people got sick easier, right?
Mhm.
And so eating this stuff was just like was not a problem even back in the day because we were in moderation. We didn't have an excess amount of it, right?
Well,
And then
no, I agree with that.
guess what happened? We were able to start to refrigerate it, and we were able to start to transport it to different parts of the world. You can have food. You can have like like meats and food that would not be even close to where you would be from now because
Hmm.
we have planes and modern transportation, right? And epic like refrigeration tools and epic agriculture, right? So
Mhm.
getting to
that's not a good thing.
that's a great thing, but this is but another problem surfaced, which is the problem that we never had time to really evolve to become true omnivores, right? We never
Yeah,
had
but we
time.
never had time to evolve to understand the complexities of capitalist
Facebook.
economies. We never had the time
What does that have
to.
to do with? That has nothing to do.
That has
You're
everything.
redirecting the argument to something completely different. I'm talking
But then you can say
specifically.
the same thing about like other animals and species.
No,
If we didn't advance in that way, wouldn't other animals do the same? Would they not be on top of the food chain and somehow they
They
become like
they
the
don't
humans
die.
of the
Other
species?
animals don't die from diseases that they can prevent, right? Other animals are built and they're way more effective at surviving based on
Mm,
their circumstances. Seriously, they are. Like, you know, you have people that are in their 40s and 50s, right, on the brink of like dying, but they're only alive because we have modern medicine that is keeping them alive, right? It's like you hear a lot of people saying, you know, it's great, you know, I'll eat whatever I want, you know, I'll die whatever I want. But it's not about that
Mhm.
because once you start to see the door, uh, the death knocking on your door, you'll start to realize very quickly you need to start changing your habits, right? And
That's where I see that's a short sight from your side, because why? I forgot exactly what I was going to say. Wait.
so going back
Well,
to the physiological, like think about it, guys. Like we have
no, no, no,
evolved
but how?
technology so much faster than anything else. Like our physiology, keep saying the word science, and yet you're not even listening to what I'm trying to tell you, which is that
Mhm.
think about it. It takes thousands, if not millions of years, tens of thousands of years for us to evolve just to even a small part of what we can do, right? Like physiologically, right? Like when
Mhm.
animals evolve at a great feat of evolution makes
That's not necessarily true because we had
you're
Th-
saying
that's
our
that's due
we had
that's due to our cousins, the Homo erectus, who like started to like use beds to sleep in, and they use their thumbs. Like what separates us from like other animals is that we can use our thumbs. We can
no, there's other animals
yeah.
that can
basically
use their thumbs.
interact.
It's
I mean, that's a
because
false dichotomy
cooking was the
because
number one
because
tool of
look at
evolution that
this
we
shit.
had that really
Just
made us awesome because we were able to start to eat less during the day, because we could eat like a lot of substance in like the starches and the foods that we were able to cook. You know what I mean?
Of
Like
course.
that's what it
Yeah.
was. It had nothing to do with thumbs because raccoons have thumbs. Like, you know what I mean? We have
I
Mm,
say it's
other
language.
well, that
I
mm,
all
think we can
came,
pass on.
guys, listen to me. When you start to see that young kids in America are starting to be overweight, and you're saying it's because of overeating, and you're not
it,
realizing that what are they overeating? Because you're telling me that if you were to overeat vegetables and fruits all the time, that you would be obese. It's just not. It's not.
yes.
You're not going to
oh
convince me.
no no
You're just not going to
no
convince me
Yes.
because
if you
nobody can
over
overeat on vegetables and fruits because
yeah
eventually
yeah
you'll.
You can though.
you
Like
can
like
but
my
with
mom's my mom's like diabetic and like even the doctor's like, oh, don't eat like these certain fruits because
The
high in
doctor
sugar.
told her
It's
that.
really bad for you. Yeah.
The doctor told her not to eat fruits and vegetables. Is that doctor a
He told
nutritionist?
he told her not to eat certain fruits and vegetables or else it would spike it again,
You know,
which is really bad for her.
the video that I sent you, or the doctor that I sent you, he's the only doctor that has cured diabetes. Nobody else has fucking
Mm,
cured it. No, seriously, watch his videos. Don't go and just not listen to me. That doesn't mean
no, no,
it.
no, I'll watch it. It's just
My
like
friend, my good friend, he's diabetic, and
my
I'm watching
friend
him. I'm
sent
watching
me the
him.
same video.
no
I'm watching him like eat these pork grinds, and he's like, I can't eat
yeah
fruits because it's bad for because I'm diabetic. And I'm like,
yeah
are you kidding me? Are you saying that you're
dude
allowed to eat all this bacon and all this stuff because it's better for your diabetes? And he keeps
no
gaining
no
more
no no
weight and he's getting worse. He's having knee problems. And I've been trying to tell him, it's like, you should consider eating more fruits and vegetables, right?
that
I'm
but
not
no
even
no
saying
that's not
abandon meat entirely. I'm just like, listen, like no one
yeah
argues that you should have more fruits and oh,
and
I
not
can hear
I'm not even
the video. You gotta watch it right now.
Yeah.
Just watch it
not
after
not
class, and then
I'm
we'll
watching
have
it
a
now.
more.
not not even I'm arguing that but to say that
I'm gonna start
you
cutting
have
this.
to take into consideration the advancements we've had with foods and chemicals. The chemicals that we put in foods, just like in a lot of syrups and
Can you
stuff,
mute
just
your
straight
mic?
stuff,
Uh,
it's not
Oh,
natural.
sorry.
yeah, because
Like
I've already seen the video.
cornstarch, just the problem I have is you lump meat eaters and vegans in these specific categories when it's much more expansive
Here,
because you can be a
I'm gonna
meat
mute you,
eater.
Samara. You didn't mute yourself. So if you want to talk, just say something in the chat.
You could be a meat eater and live for 100 years because you relied on the sustenance of meat only, and we have
Give me
so many, at
examples.
least in America.
Give me some good examples of this. Because
I can give you examples, but I'm just saying in America, generalizing, we have so many additives in our food.
yeah, sure.
Corn
But
syrup,
dude, let me tell you, there was a study where they literally
sugars,
took
sodium in our
they
foods
took
that has never
oh
been in our
dude, I'm not disagreeing with you on junk
yeah.
food. I'm not saying that junk food is the good thing that we should all appraise and we should see the difference between that and just meat. I'm saying in general, meat has nothing in it other than saturated fat, cholesterol, and some proteins, and anything else we inject in it. Like
Saying
because
saturated fat is just completely bad is I don't buy it unless there's
an abundance of saturated fat, like you know how when you
okay
eat
I
a
can
lot
see
of
okay
you know
I
how when
think
you
the
had like a
argument
good steak, you had like a good steak one day or
no
like
wait
some
okay
barbecue.
the argument is I think I know I've been trying to say this but I'm too drunk to communicate this is
Can I ask an
your
odd
your
thing after
your
Mm.
your ability okay your everyday life like day to day nowadays is dependent on how you work. So if you're doing manual labor all day, these kind of foods aren't going to affect you if you're sitting down 12 hours a day, right? And you of all people know that sitting 12 hours a day doing work is less healthy than moving around and doing loads of work and lifting heavy things. That's just a given that that's less healthy because
Uh-huh.
but why is that? Why is that less healthy?
So,
Because we didn't evolve to sit at a computer for 12 hours a day and do work. We evolved to move around
oh yeah,
at
that's a
moderate speed.
whole different argument about like
How is that a different argument?
because
That's
let me
it's
tell you,
all
I'm trying to tell you, if you just stop
all
talking for 1 second,
all right.
I gave you your time to talk, and now I'm going to tell you
Mhm.
what I'm going to try to explain to you why that's a different argument. You don't say, why
Mhm.
is that a different argument? What I'm trying to tell you. That's not how a discussion works. So
Like
so why is it a different argument? It's because there was a study that was done where they took people that worked out and ate whatever they wanted, which is they did basically, herbivore or omnivore, it doesn't matter, right? They looked at the meat eating people who ate meat and exercised, and there was a significant difference between those people who ate meat, right, and exercise versus the people who ate meat and didn't exercise. There was a significant difference, right?
mhm.
It's pretty big. It's pretty substantial, like you were saying. But then they looked at people that just ate fruits and vegetables, like basically a whole foods plant-based diet, right?
Mhm.
They saw the difference between those people and the people who worked out, and they realized one very simple thing was that the people that just ate differently and didn't work out had a dramatic change in their health, and they didn't even work out. You understand this? A
Mhm.
greatest example of this is one of my favorite magicians. His name is Penn from Penn and Teller. You know Penn from Penn and Teller?
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to be overweight and he used to eat whatever, and then he switched his diet to a whole foods plant-based diet. And I kind of like take his position too in terms of the word vegan, because he himself he doesn't like it because of the political associations that go with it. And I agree with that because like a lot like what we were saying earlier, right? Like people are just really dickish about like I'm higher than you kind of mentality.
Mhm.
I think when we're talking, like even though we're discussing, I don't think any of us are thinking that we're better than others. We're just arguing why
We're getting into the meat.
yeah
Can I ask you that
we're,
question once you guys are done?
yeah,
Yeah,
of
dude.
course. You can if it's art related, you can always interrupt in the middle of whatever because this
Oh
is
my
art
god,
class.
thank Christ.
Because we're getting
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Two things. Sorry, I sent a thing of doing the changes in the background
Uh-huh.
of the dude.
Sure.
And it's in Skype. I took a screenshot. Can you have
Yeah,
a look at it and see if it's anatomy shit? And also, did you talk to Kaylin?
I did not yet. I talked to him, but I didn't talk to him about what you wanted to take a class with them. So
His
I'll
chest is still good.
yeah I'll message him like right now.
Nicholas, you know what bugs me about the just the pose is he's floating,
Yeah.
but he doesn't look like it. Like his arms don't show it, and his legs. That's all I could recommend is like his arms kind of look awkward.
Yeah, I never have good positions for arms and poses. Yeah, I'll make. I think I'll make it
what
like
did you want to
deep
in the class?
dangle.
The class is it for November, right? Is that what you're thinking? Or October?
Whichever when this one ends, once I finish this character one, I want to do environment one because, yeah.
Yeah, I want to do that too, bro.
All right, I messaged him on Skype. He'll check it probably tomorrow.
Sweet.
Yeah, speaking of poses, like if you want to get a really good pose, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if Samara is still. Oh, she muted herself though. Okay, I muted her. What I found in terms of like poses, you just take a picture of yourself. It's like really useful. Like use reference like of yourself, or have a friend, try to stand in the position that's useful to you. You know what I mean? So you don't have to sit around and just wait for like a photo reference online. Like that's the beautiful part about like the day and age we live in is like you literally taking a picture is so easy and putting it on the internet and getting it to your computer. It's like so easy to do nowadays, you know?
I see that. I mean, just like to make him feel floating and
Yeah, take a picture of
a
yourself and
pose shot almost.
try to get what that might look like, you know?
Oh damn.
Yeah, like you could jump in the air maybe. You can you can like take a picture of the top part of your body and then take a picture of your bottom part, like maybe like grabbing onto like a bar or something, so it looks like your legs are like floating. You know what I mean? So you can kind of
Oh shit.
yeah, just be clever. So you don't have to
And
like
then they're like the epic poses of like that power. You know what I'm talking about, Anthony? With like that power like stance when you're in the air, when
yeah.
you kind of have your
I mean,
hands up.
there's plenty of reference even just floating around
Yeah.
online too. My point is just like yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't just take a photo reference and get going. Um, but yeah, hopefully that was helpful to you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
like that.
I am back.
So for the future, if we're talking about something that has nothing to do, like by all means interrupt. No, seriously, like by all means. I enjoy these discussions. It's really good to kind of get into intellectual debates. But like,
I didn't mean to
but at the same
like
time, I don't want to derail the class because of these.
yeah.
Um. So are we good? Is that what you?
Yeah, no, that's good. I think I bent his leg in his I don't know what leg it is. His left leg, I bent it in, and it looks like it's floating way more.
There you go. But it's looking better. The
It's
proportions
like
don't look
there's
off.
one of Mercy from Overwatch, and she's doing that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't look off to me, man. They look fine, or it's looking better.
Cool.
Good for checking in on it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure where we're left off. But my point is oh yeah, Penn and Teller. That's where it was. So Penn and Teller, Penn from Penn and Teller, he switched his diet, and he like I said, he doesn't even want to associate with the word vegan, but he pretty much he said for all extensive purposes that's what he is now, right? In terms of what he eats, and he did that because of health reasons too, right? Because he looked at his kids because he had his kids when he was 50, and he was just like, oh man, I'm gonna die really young, and he had really bad blood pressure and all this stuff, very standard American diseases that we have when you start to get in your 50s and your 60s, right? Uh, and he's changed his diet and he got off of like a lot of his medication. He lost over 100 pounds and he didn't work out at all. He said he didn't work out, not even a little bit. Um, what he did because he said the reason he did is because people made it a challenge. He said he likes challenges. And what he did the first week, I didn't even do this. This is crazy. He ate only potatoes for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, what the? Ugh, that's crazy. And because for me, what I did was just kept it really simple. I just avoided it as much as I could. Like if I went out with some friends, I would, it's fine. It's no big deal. But if I was at like a restaurant and I could get something that had less meat or dairy in it, I would just get it. You know what I mean? I didn't make it like a priority. It wasn't like, all right, full throttle. In fact, I had some friends that did that. Like after I talked to them about it, and I told them, I was like, don't do full throttle because you just like in art, right? Because it's not sustainable. And in fact, I encourage people just to eat less. I don't even encourage people to eat none.
So Anthony, if I took you hunting with me and you saw me shoot and kill the animal and gut it, clean it, and then cook it for you, you wouldn't eat it. Just
Well,
But then, like, if he's comfortable with where he's at and what he wants,
well,
like,
here's
to live by, why not just let him be?
here's a proposition I want to point to you is that I call it's the Dalai Lama diet and something that I've considered, especially since I travel a lot and there's been situations where I did kind of feel pretentious and it wasn't on purpose and then no one ever felt that I was, right? But I was just like, no, I can't have that, And I was like, nah, that's stupid. I should be more courteous. But like, it wasn't like I was just like, oh, I can't have that. Don't you know? Like, what's wrong with you?
yeah.
Like, it was just more like, ah, dude, I feel bad. Like, And they're like, oh no, you do. You shouldn't feel bad. Like, I didn't know. It was like that kind of situation.
Hmm.
But there's the Dalai Lama diet, which is basically where the Dalai Lama is a vegan as well. But what he does is that if he goes to like someone's house or he goes to someone's place or their dinner or whatever, and they serve what they may serve, right? He'll eat it as a sign of courtesy, right? And that makes sense because it's not something I would do every day, right? Like
Do you think
my
he's human?
standard. I think if they said it was human, I probably wouldn't eat it because that's just like
You gotta be
completely.
Dalai Lama level to eat humans.
Yeah, the Dalai Lama eats humans.
Oh god.
Yeah, can you imagine? But like, there's a great Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where they were eating like I forget the Danny DeVito's character's name, but they were eating all his meat out of his fridge, and he had all these exotic meats. And then one day he like put one really exotic meat in there they couldn't put the finger on, and he was like, "It's human." And they're like, "What?" And in the whole episode, they're like they're hunting this bum, and they're trying to eat him. It's so funny. So
I
good.
fucking love
Anyway, so my point is that like I'm not like that when I'm around people. Whenever people ask like why and how, like I tell them the health purposes, and I tell them to do your own research. Don't listen to me, man. Right? Just like do what I did. I just looked online and I saw a lot of like the stuff that I just couldn't deny. It was very clear. Like my dad even he stopped eating more and more, and he started eating more vegetables, and he started losing weight. It's just like it's like to Samar's point,
No,
if you ate nothing,
but that's
if you
the
ate like
thing.
100 bananas, like yeah, it's gonna be hard not to gain weight, right? But that's 100 bananas. You know what I mean? Like a bowl of kale, like a real big bowl of kale. It's like huge. It's like it's really hard to eat, right? That much kale, right? But it's like probably only 300 or 400 calories too. That's the point. The food goes right through us. It's built to, right? Like the fiber goes into our stomach. It helps us digest. Yeah, because I never get food comas from eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. I used to when I used to get Korean barbecue. And even when I would eat only like one serving of it, I would be like, me and my friends, we would go and we'd eat like just whatever they would serve. And then we would like get like trays and trays of it, right?
Can't
And then
stand Korean
we
barbecue.
stopped doing that because we just were so drowsy. It's because our body is just like, all right, you need to take a break so we can start taking this stuff in. You know what I mean? And you're not entirely wrong to think that we can't like we can't eat it. Like you're right, we can. We totally can. You know? But it's just not. We're just not. It's not the most efficient food for us. That's the point I'm trying to make. You know what I mean?
What is your definition of efficient? Because to me, it's pretty
Like
efficient.
if
to
you
make
were to just eat nothing
like
but, like try it. Like if you were just to
no,
eat
no, no, no,
nothing
no, no.
I
but,
mean, like,
See
you would
that's
start to realize
you're
right away because I eat
now
nothing
you're
but
now you're
fruits
seeing
and vegetables. You know what I mean?
now
I
you're
mean, like,
changing
if you were to give
you're changing the argument
one kind
that
of food to like a starving country, what kind of food do you give? You wouldn't give them like, here's a little amount of like vegetables, but it won't really sustain you. And
Yeah,
we're starving.
yeah,
You give
because
them like meat.
no, you give
You
them
give them
no,
iron.
no iron. Are you
You,
kidding
you,
me?
you no
Oh boy,
like actual like
oh
beef
boy.
beef. But like
What about
because
those
it's like
countries that don't eat?
if
What
you're
about those
giving
countries that
them
don't eat beef?
food, if you're giving them food, they have enough vegetables and sources to
What
last
about
them.
the
That's the issue.
yeah? What about the third world countries that survive pretty much on?
I've lived in a third world
And
country.
what did you eat? What did you eat? Did you eat beef
I
all the time?
chicken, fish, a lot of vegetables, a lot of organic vegetables that we grow in the
A
mountains.
lot of vegetables, right? And very, very
and
rarely,
Samar,
Mostly meat.
is
mostly
that why you
meat.
can only
Like your
bench
state.
Yeah.
marshmallows?
Wait,
Hmm?
so
My
you
point.
ate
My
mostly
point.
like
Yeah.
like like it was like 90 or 80 or 70. Give me a percentage of what
It
you
was
mean by
like,
what mostly means.
all right, so it'd be like 70% meat and then 30% vegetables.
It would be 70% meat. Wow. And
Yeah,
that's
so
all
this is
you.
considering like, yeah, this is considering chicken, lamb, goat, cow, but not pork because pork's not halal. So
Halal.
like, yeah, oh,
Halal.
halal. Like
Well,
you know how it's where something's like not kosher?
You know
yeah,
where
well,
like they
I don't want to be
cut the throat of
insensitive,
goats?
but you
No,
might
no,
need to be really considerate of that. You need to consider what may happen to you in the near future. You know what I mean?
of course. And I don't know.
Because
I've seen the
if you just look at
Define
your
the
own
I've seen my family.
yeah, I mean like you just case in point, I don't want to
Mm.
be insensitive, like case in
Mm.
point, and
No, I mean like I've had like a grandma that's like lived
oh dude,
to like
great
what
great argument. Let's talk about it.
Exactly.
98,
Let's talk
99.
about this. So
Exactly.
the generation gap, because the generations before us, this is getting back to the point. They ate less. They just did. Like I bet your
Mm,
grandma,
mm.
they just did. There's no way you can tell me that we today eat less than they did then. It's just no way
Of
because
course.
it's because like there was a study that was done with this I believe it was like the Philippines where they looked at the
Mhm.
grandparents and they were living to like 90 and 80 like you're saying, right?
Of course,
And
yeah.
they were eating what? Mostly plants and vegetables and fruits.
So
Mm.
shouldn't we be teaching balance instead of restriction?
And so then the next generation, they had a less life expectancy, and they were eating more of chicken and pork and beef, right? And then their kids, our generation, are like completely screwed, right? Right?
It's
And so,
I think
no,
how
seriously, like
I mean, like it
my
depends. It
friend-
depends on like the parents who teach you like, oh, this is how much you should eat. This is how much your body needs. Versus like,
well,
oh,
let me tell
this
you.
this is in terms of survival.
Yeah, let me tell you. Let
So
me tell you. I'm telling you what it is, and you guys need to just consider it. You really do,
Hmm.
because you might not see it now because you guys are young and lively, right? But once you
hmm.
start getting into your 30s, like me, you start having these severe headaches, and there's like from 30 years of just eating the way that I was doing. I was working out, and I was always in specific shape, right? And that's when I
Hmm.
ate the most. And that's when like I seriously started working out like right after my daughter was born, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
And that's when I started having like I was working out, but I was also drinking protein shakes and eating tons of chicken, right?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
dude,
it's too much
I
protein.
might have got I might have got this tumor because of all that bullshit. That's what I'm trying to say. And I started feeling
Well,
much better when I switched over, and that's one of the things. And I
But
lost
how am
like,
I gonna bench 230? I'm not if I'm on a kale diet.
wait, what? Say that again?
wouldn't because like in biology, it's like the overconsumption of protein. That's when the cells. Oh my God, it's
Well,
been so
then
long.
guess what has tons of protein? I mean, like
It's always, but now
you're
we're back to
starting to like you're
overconsumption,
starting
overconsumption. So instead of balance, where it's just like
that,
have a small amount of meat with also a large amount of
yeah.
vegetables
Well, the
for your amino acid chain.
the guy who's
Because
in
like,
charge of like cardiology, the guy who's like the most renowned cardiologist, says that
mm,
people should just basically eat pretty much none, right? And I hear that and I'm like, this guy is the best at what he does. He's not my family doctor. He is like some guy that's literally curing people from heart diseases, you know?
you're talking about Neil Bernard, right?
No, that guy is the diabetes guy. That's the guy I sent you. And then I
Yeah,
have another,
I've seen that stuff before.
yeah, and I have another
I have
guy
not.
who's
Mm.
I'm just telling you, man. Like, if you just look at the evidence that's surrounding us, it's like you're saying overconsumption. And I'm hearing that word, and you're just not listening to your own advice. You know, you're like
But then like you tell
overconsumption.
me you tell me that like, oh, you've been eating like a lot of meat, a lot of like protein shakes, a
You
lot of this, a lot of that. When you say a lot, that means it's overconsumption. You know it's not a perfect amount. You know you've been
Yeah,
overeating.
I would have like let me ask you then. I would have a chicken for lunch, and then I would have chicken for dinner, and for breakfast I would
Mm.
have a protein shake, and then I would have protein shakes like another one after a workout. That's pretty much what my diet
Mm-hmm.
was.
Mm-hmm.
Any supplements? You gotta eat
You
naturally.
That's my
like
And
point.
for you to have like
when you cook,
180, 160 grams of protein per day, you'd have to be like a really heavy body lifter.
yeah, that's yeah, exactly. You have to lift the amount of
So
calories that
Arnold
you're putting in
Schwarzenegger
your
is
body.
that kind of guy that was eating the amount he
Well,
should
he
have
was
been.
on
He
steroids.
did steroids.
Oh,
He
sure.
really did steroids.
But he had a
Another.
heart attack. He had 3 or 4 heart attacks, right?
From the steroids,
No,
from the
steroids don't give you
chemicals.
heart attacks. You guys don't know anything about the stuff that you're talking about, so don't pretend
No,
to
no, no.
this.
I'm not saying he had a heart attack on
He
because
got
of
a
it.
heart
I'm just
attack
saying
from
he was
his
big.
high cholesterol. His doctor told him that he needed to be a vegetarian, like literally. And Sylvester Stallone has had no heart attacks, and his diet is mostly of vegetables and plants. He eats meat too, by the way.
I'm gonna go eat food,
Mm.
probably.
And then if you look
Huh.
at Sylvester Stallone's son, who died from a heart attack, that was really sad. And his son was only in his 30s. And guess what? It's the generation gap that I was just referring to. Like, you guys should be more considerate of what's going on, more than anyone else. Don't look at your
I feel
grandparents.
like
Don't look at
those
our
are
parents either, because they grew up in a different era where there was not modern refrigeration. Like, they didn't have the American Carl's Jr. American burger. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a thing, right? And
Of
you're
course,
talking about
processed meat.
they're talking about processed meat, but they didn't have Korean barbecue. They didn't have just like an abundance of this thing.
but
Where it's just
that's
like anything is available to us like anytime.
Yeah, because
at
even
So it's
least
back
like
in the day,
we abuse that power where it's just
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
oh, it's available to us at like a second. Like right now, you can be like, oh, you know what? I pick ordering pizza. It'll be here faster than like an ambulance. You know?
Absolutely. Like you guys were
But
talking
Anthony,
about
I feel
moderation, and I agree. Like, but think about it in the
Mm.
ancient ways of moderation. Like, if you really
but I
want to
feel
talk about
like
it,
you're talking past me because my family is hunters, and we eat. Our meat is elk meat, and
Remy, you
yeah.
want to be shocked? My dad's a butcher. My dad's a halal butcher. So
They
the
cut the
stuff doesn't
throat
really.
and leave them to death.
No. Basically, the animals get. You know, they live on the farm. They live and stuff.
You don't
And
have
then once they get
farms.
old, once they get old, that's when they kill them and then ship them to my dad for him to like cut them and whatnot. But for the meat to be halal or like to be pure, it cannot be through suffering. It cannot give the animal suffering.
What does that mean, suffering?
all right. Well,
So it's like you know how it's like you let's
But it's-
say so lobster isn't halal. Basically, you put a lobster in a boiling pot of water, it will
So,
feel that pain.
wait. If you cut the lobster's head off,
You can't have lobster
suffering?
because like it would still be alive. The only way to kill like lobster is to boil it alive, to put in hot steaming water.
all right. Well, I think we're on to a different. I don't want to get into that.
Like, on a-
I don't want to get
But
into this. But my point is that you guys should do your own research. Don't just take my word for it.
I've done my research. Here's the thing though, like
How
I do
much
have friends. I have
have you done?
friends.
Don't
I
just
have
tell me you've
friends.
done research.
Or-
You literally have
Okay,
done
okay.
research. Because it's easy to
oh
say
my
that.
goodness.
Because you can say I
Oh
can
my
spend like 1
goodness.
hour looking into it. That's really easy.
No, not even 1 hour. It's just like hours of videos and videos and videos, and it's just
Okay, name
like
a video, name a doctor
Yeah,
that you
what?
listened to,
Yeah.
that you agreed with, or you disagreed with.
House.
Because I can tell you plenty.
Steve, that weird guy that's like banned from like 10 countries.
See, bro.
I don't know
Hmm?
any Steves. So he might be not a good person that you should have been listening to in the first place.
But here's the thing though, it's like most of my friends listen to him, and that's why they converted to veganism. It's like
Steve. There's a Gary.
Steve.
Gary is an ethical vegan.
Gary, yeah, that asshole, Gary.
No, he's not an asshole. He is an asshole.
He's a racist.
He's pretty hardcore. But like
This is like
I don't
Gary,
listen to him for health reasons. My point is, you like okay, name another actual doctor, not some guy fanatic. You know? Do you see the difference of what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Who?
this guy on YouTube. He's both a vegan.
But is he a doctor?
He's no,
I mean, like,
but he is a vegan.
because you guys are not doctors, right? I believe this.
Mhm.
And
Of course not.
and
My uncle is.
and my point is that I'm not either. That's why I take my opinion on those are doctors. You know, the people
course,
that I've listened to are mostly, in fact, all of them are doctors. There's Dr. McDougall. There's Dr. Bernard.
Oh, I know McDougall.
There's Dr. McGregor.
Oh, I'm not. I don't agree with McDougall.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you agree with him or not. He gets results. He's been saving people. Like that's you can't deny that. Like it's,
But I can name you doctors
There's
that have the paleo diet that have results.
okay. Name
Exactly.
name one.
um.
You can't just say exactly and then say nothing. Come on,
Give me 2
guys.
seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Abramson.
All right, let me ask you another. Then let's follow a series of questions. Do they have any agenda? Because this whole thing, the Atkins diet already happened.
That's a thing.
Yeah, because the Atkins diet was also the paleo diet, right? And that diet got basically abolished because it was killing people, right?
Well, the Atkins diet.
Well,
Yeah.
it was pretty obvious why I was like killing people because it's like
All meat diet.
you're only consuming meat. You need balance in your life. You need eat a salad, man. Like holy.
That's pretty much all I eat. And
It was like
man.
it was all like high fat, high protein, but there was no like carbs to like go with it to wash it out. You just
Yeah, I agree with the idea of balance. My point is that you don't need the meat for that balance. You understand?
But in terms of the Atkins diet, it's just like it was just another weird diet for people to lose weight while they make money.
Yes, exactly, right?
It's like you introduce any kind of diet, and it'll have the same kind of effect.
no,
Even the raw foods diet.
not so much, because like I said, this is the only real diet where people get benefits from. Truly, they do. And and that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, and I'm not trying to tell you guys to stop entirely. All right, I really am not.
Okay.
I'm just saying, you say balance. I don't think you guys understand what that means. You know. And if you really did, then you would really start to look into the evidence. And I don't want it to be too late, type of thing, right? Because a lot of my friends are starting to go through a lot of stuff, man. It's crazy. Like, and all my friends are all in the 30s, right? And it's crazy to see all these things happening to them, like it was happening to me, you know? And I'm just like, man, what's going on, you know? And we have like some issues like with our friends' kids. We see that happen with our friends' kids too. And we're just like, man, it's kind of scary. And for episode 2 on this whole thing, we'll talk about the whole environmental problem, which really is not is really a big problem, because we were talking about the whole like, you know, third world country stuff, right? Check it out. All the food that we would feed the animals that we kill is enough to feed the
Yeah.
world twice over. That's crazy to me. That's a lot of food, man. That's a
And that's where I
lot of
don't,
food.
that's where I don't necessarily disagree with you.
Yeah, I know. It's like, aside
But
from the health stuff, aside from the animal murdering stuff, if you just look at it from the environmental things, which is just evidence, it's just like there's a lot of reasons why everyone should moderate, right? Whether it's for health reasons or whether it's for ethical reasons or whether it's for the environment, right? It's really becoming a problem in all fronts, right? And it's something that I wasn't able to see specifically more openly until I just decided to completely go over. And it took me 2 months, because it was hard, man. It was really hard, because I was having meat dreams. I was like dreaming of like bacon like flying into my mouth. It was like, oh.
how am I gonna squat 300 on a vegan diet? I don't
Uh,
understand that.
you know, one of the strongest people on this planet is a vegan.
No.
So let's get into it. Let's get into.
I know that. No. I know exactly.
Well, then
Who
you
you
shut your face.
fucking
You shut your face
know
before I disprove
exactly.
another thing. All right. And you're like, how do I spot 300? Well, you just eat more food. You just eat more food, so you supplement the amount of energy you're expending. That's pretty much how it works.
You guys ever seen an artist named Simon Stalenhag?
Stalin.
Stalenhag, I
No, I
think.
haven't.
Yeah. Dude, Google it right now. Simon
Can you
and then
Google, find us for
Stalenhag.
why is he enormous? What's the relevance? Or he's just an awesome artist and you just want to talk about art again?
Oh, it's not relevant. I was just looking at this shit. I was thinking about the whole, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And I was
Oh,
like,
I
I pretty
see.
much just want to be this guy.
I
This
see.
guy is a prince.
That's good, man. It's a good question to ask yourself. You know what I mean? Like, people don't ask themselves that. Like, aside from all the stuff that we're talking about, you know, whatever you guys put in your body is up to you. It's not mine, right? And it's the same I feel about art too. Like, whatever you want to draw and whatever you want to paint, you know, it's fine. You know, because there's someone out there that does it and makes money off of it, and makes a living, or survives off of this way of doing it. You just got to be the best, right? You just got to prove that you have worth. You know, like this is great. I think I have seen this stuff. I see, like, this looks very familiar. I'm trying to find a piece that I think is attached to this guy, because his artwork looks very specific.
The top one is really popular with, like, I think I've seen that one in, like, Imagine
Nah, these
where there's the...
it's the whole like 70s era with like epic like sci-fi stuff. That's a very specific style that I've seen before, and now I'm now curious if that's a different artist, because then that has a question that's mixed in my head: is who did it first? Okay, and because this guy is not that guy. I don't think. I think it's
Oh,
someone
really?
else. Yeah, because if you type in, like, for instance, if you type in Jamie Jones, guess
Oh, I
guess who
love him.
pops up? Not our art friend. If you just go
Yeah,
here,
some, like, singer.
you'll find like people who do studies of his, but then you also see my artwork. My artwork is in this spray, and I am not Jamie Jones, nor am I as good as I would like to be as Jamie Jones. Oh, in this instance, there's no example. Oh, here. Like, what does this have to do with Jamie? This is stuff I did for God of War.
Fuck. Maybe because it's just concept art.
No, this is Jason Chan too, I think. Or is this? No, this is. I think that is actually Jamie's. Yeah, well, because we both share the last name, Jones. Oh yeah, here you go. In the top third row, there's a piece right here. Just because I put Jamie Jones practice. You know what I mean? So you got to be cautious. So going back to that guy, like not that guy, but this guy, Simon. This is really good. But there was an art that I saw that was very reminiscent, and I
The
don't.
70s with sci-fi.
Yeah, and it was really cool, man. It was really cool.
It mixes surprisingly well.
Anyway, yeah. See, this is Robert's stuff too, right here. It's not even anything to do with this guy.
Oh,
So you gotta. But I think most of this is his. The style is similar enough. It's pretty consistent that I wouldn't disagree with certain things. But yeah, when you're looking for stuff, like this is great to do that, like we just did.
Yeah.
Suggest do that for everyone else, man. Because,
It reminds.
go ahead.
I was gonna say that one of the one of the things reminded me of Fargo for some reason. It's like the wood chipper scene.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. I'm gonna leave you guys, but I'm gonna send you guys
Sure.
a thing. Gregor, Dr. Gregor, because he's the one that
Sure.
he's the one that truly convinced me. Out of all the videos and all the stuff, he was the one that made me convinced that I need to reconsider what I was doing. And that's it. I didn't even say, I didn't even say, oh, I'm gonna go vegan. Like, it wasn't like that at all. He was just the person that made me even consider it. You understand?
Yeah.
And it's really important because you'll start to reevaluate everything, because it's like it goes all back to training, right? Like I'll talk about this in the next class because it's actually relevant to art and how to become better. It's about why we're different from our primate brethren, right?
Uh-huh.
And it has to do with this thing that actually makes us look kind of stupid, but it's reasons why we have stuff like language and why we can do stuff like get on a plane flying somewhere, right? Without knowing the pilot, without knowing the people that we're sitting next to, without knowing the people who built the plane, the manufacturer of the actual parts of the plane, without knowing anything about anything, right? And we can sit there comfortably and sleep, right? Because in the primate world, if you come in there and we don't know you, like there's going to be some trouble, right? It's a very really interesting thing, and once you understand this perspective, it actually helps you to kind of pass through that primate part of us that's still like in us. You know what I mean? And it's a really powerful tool to grow, like when you're drawing and painting, right? Because then you won't rely, and it's allowed me to become a really good artist over a series of years of just because I would just not let silly things like being bad at something prevent me from drawing more, right? You know what I mean? Because I know that's the part of my brain that's just like, oh, this is not easy. We should do something hard. Or I'm sorry, this is not easy. We should do something easy. Like, let's go do something easy right now. You know what I mean? Because in a survival sense, that's like a great way of conserving energy, right? Not doing things that are very exert too much energy or that doesn't really retain it to our survival, right?
Yeah.
But now we live in a time where we have like like iPhones. Yeah, well, iPhones. Like where people checking their, like I saw a statistic where people check their phones on average in America specifically every 6 to 10 minutes. That's crazy, right? Like throughout the day, like 6 to 10 minutes on aaverage. That's accounting for the most extreme and the most non-extreme people that don't like. They still have like a pager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's.
I just want a HUD.
Yeah, I know,
A
right?
HUD. Constant.
The synapse HUD just in your eyeball.
Oh, fuck
At
yeah,
all
bro.
times.
Yeah.
You dope.
But anywho, I appreciate your conversation. Hopefully you guys got something from even just watching me paint. I'll explain kind of a little bit more about this. So like basically with the values, I did a glaze of color, and I have videos about this. I explained this, but just for this one. And then once you get to this point where you feel like the colors and stuff are great, and here's something we were talking about before. Remember we were talking about like how do you get your values to be better or colors to be better? And I was talking about
Yeah.
values, right? So this is a great example. I kept everything in those mid-ish tones I was talking about before. Remember? And
Yeah.
and the face was a hard sell because it was too light, and so I had to bring it back, and that's why I had to paint it in. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
Because it was already too light. But I like to paint with the graphic read in mind more than like thinking of the colors usually.
So is there like a percentage, like
Because
you know how
graphically
like
it's still good.
actual,
That's the point I'm trying to make.
but you know like the actual percentage of like the black to white, is there like a gradient you use?
I would say 30 to 60. Stay in that realm.
30,
That's where you can get colors the most. And the closer you are to 30, the harder it is, and the 60 is it's not so hard because some
Oh,
colors still feel rich even in a darker value. But
okay.
definitely in the lighter values are harder to keep.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to save this though. But yeah, do you guys have any questions now before I let you guys out?
Nope.
Thanks for messaging.
Eat a banana, guys.
But not too much because it's potassium poisoning.
Oh boy. Look into that too. Look into that too.
Thanks for messaging, Caleb.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Eat a banana, guys. After this, go eat a banana. Stick it in an apple.
I'm gonna go to the gym tomorrow. Like, I should just be eating like pure just bananas.
I mean,
And
think about silverback. Yeah, think about silverback gorillas, right? I mean, they're
That's
not.
a good point.
They can deadlift 4 times their weight, dude. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I mean, like, because they deadlift every day.
Yeah. Well,
We're just working in the office.
I'm just saying. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying. Versus some of their carnivore competitors, like I would put my money on a silverback versus a lion. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That's all I'm
a
saying.
jaguar.
Yeah, definitely still a silverback. Well, here's another herbivore, a giant elephant or a hippo. Hippos are freaking ruthless.
Hippos are.
But a lion can still kill a hippo.
Yeah,
I
I'd like to see that.
Maybe a pack of them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, see you guys. Good talking with you guys. I gotta go now. Yeah, remember to keep hanging out with each other and try to do videos go to meetings or Google Hangouts with one another. You know, hang out, conversate, just so that way you guys keep that paintbrush moving. You know what I mean?
Playing Rainbow Six with me right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Time management, brother. All right, talk to you guys later.
Peace.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.